Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last Monday night movie review show you will see ever for the next 2 weeks. And I'll have more on that later on. But for now, we are here with not as packed as a cast as we had last week. We still have a pretty good course of people here for this week's movie because this week we're talking about the latest Warner Brothers film, Black Adam, which is now out in theaters. We've all saw it. We're all going to talk about it. But before we get into the movie, let's go ahead and introduce everyone who is here with us tonight. Let's start with Mr. Orange Hat Reviews, showing off his brand new DC coin. You want to show the audience what you got there?
Well, I got a DC coin, the Two-Face coin, and I also got a Marvel coin with a Shield logo on one side and the Hydra logo on the other. So, yeah. But, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm Orange Hat Reviews. I do entertainment stuff and movie reviews, and going to be doing tomorrow morning the last horror movie mystery review, a movie that has frightened generations.
I'll leave that be a teaser for now. We'll try to figure it out as time goes on. Then, of course, we have our good friend all the way from Texas, somewhere near Waterburger, I'm sure, Mr. Rick Aragon. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, all things considered. We've had some good times, we've had some bad times.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You're bummed out today because the Houston Astros are in the World Series again. So that's why you're coming here with a low somber mood.
Darkness,
I thought the
rain,
Astros were
struck land.
basketball.
No, they are
No,
very much not.
Those would be the
No.
Houston Rockets.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is. We have to look at the positive. But on the whole, I'm not too bad. I think I know what Orange Hat will be reviewing. I think I'll be watching. I know I'll be watching probably the most frightening thing that has been on television for the Halloween season. Yes, the Poland Halloween special, which is just terrifying.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the view.
Rob's trying very hard not to judge you right now, but I don't think it's working.
It's just
Well,
the same joke over and over and over again.
Yeah, he's in Washington. What could he do?
With my new job, I work with a lot of templates, where you
Yeah.
just copy the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so reminiscent of that. And so I
can't afford writers. You know that. I'm poor. In fact, I just got my property tax notice last week. So pray for me.
I will
Yeah.
pray for you.
That has to suck. Well, I mean, as far as baseball goes, I mean, it's not like I have much room to celebrate because the Phillies are also in the World Series and they knocked out the Braves and the Padres in very, very dominating fashion. So I have to sit here and choose between a World Series of one of my most hated cities in America and the guys that cheated in the World Series a few years ago. So
Yeah, I'm not watching.
where
In
I'm
fact,
at.
I might even watch a football game. So if anyone has a recommendation for me to watch a football
Literally any other game.
yeah.
Also joining us here today, our good friend Rob. How you doing today, Rob?
Oh, pretty good. The Titans won. They beat the Colts for the second time this year, so it's always good.
Yep. Raiders finally won a game yesterday. I mean, it's against the Texans, so I don't know how hard you can celebrate that. They suck, but I mean, a win's a win, right? So you take what you can get.
Hey, Josh Jacobs got me 46 fantasy points yesterday in my PPR league, so I was pretty thrilled with that.
Oh, yeah, he had a big game last night. Then, of course, joining us with her brand new anime avatar is C.S. Johnson. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing all right. How about yourself?
Good. I don't have any sports teams to root for, so
Don't worry about it. All that means is that your blood pressure is going to be lower than everybody else's on this stream. So, yeah, probably for the best. Then, of course, joining our panel is our good friend, the magnificent Mongo Slade, who is here with us here tonight too. How you doing, Mongo?
I'm all right. How you guys doing, man? I made it just in time. Like y'all haven't started.
Yep.
Which is great.
I mean, technically you're 5 minutes late, but you made it just in time. So, and then of course we got all of our guys who are in the chat with us tonight. We have Duke Nukem all the way from Poland now. I don't know, Poland, Germany, one of those two countries. He changes it every single week, but he's here with us. We got Spencer's in the chat, of course, listening. I'm pretty sure he's working on pretty much every Bounding in the Comics article in the last couple of weeks. We have our good friend Colt Classic Cage, who's here with us tonight. And yes, the Padres did get bodied. So, I mean, there's that. Our good buddy from Letterbox, Mr. Jonathan Trudel, who's also here with us tonight. I'm talk about that in a second. When the whole thing with Letterbox. Cassie says she loves how the Jets keep on winning and then losing more and more players due to injury. Yeah, this is what happens when you have hope as a Jets fan. But I mean, it could be worse. You could be a Yankees fan right now. So,
well, they just the Jets just traded for James Robinson, the Jaguars backup running back, who's really good actually. So hopefully their season's not completely diminished with Breece Hall out for the year now. I think he has a torn ACL.
Yeah. So it's not too bad. So a couple of things, just real quick on the sports talk. Is anyone here like a basketball fan? I wouldn't figure anyone was, but is anyone here kind of follow basketball? Okay. There's two things I wanted to rant about just real quick. One, the Los Angeles Lakers may be the worst team ever. Have you seen the Lakers recently? Last night they played Portland at home, and at this point, I honestly think that I'm a better shooter than Russell Westbrook, and I've never played basketball in my life. Let's just put it. There's like memes all over social media of him like shooting threes, and everyone in the crowd is like groaning with like their hands on their head. Like even like LeBron and AD are on the court going like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's missing breaking shots. They're 0-3, so I mean, hey, look, they're a pretty rough, awful team right now. And then the other thing is that this was a stat that went out last night. The Golden State Warriors, who have pretty much been like the dynasty team of the last 10 years, they scored 89 points in the first half last night, and everyone was bragging about how great this team is. Then I looked at the score. It's like, but you also gave up 71 points in the first half, which pretty much tells me that nobody in this league plays defense anymore. Like, nobody. Like, this is just a pure jump shooting league. I might as well be watching the All-Star game every single game now. Teams are giving up like 125 points a game, and they're considered the best team in the last decade. They're considered an all-decade team. Like, how bad has this fucking shit gotten over the last 10, 15 years that this is now the norm?
I mean, I loved the NBA in the early 2000s. I was a Nets fan, a New Jersey Nets fan, and it was a team that relied on passing and defense. Like they didn't have a dynamic scorer like we see with every other team now. And I even watching the Bulls, watching the 90s basketball, watching 80s, even though you had star players, these were hard fought series. They went 6-7 games. They were competitive. Nobody plays defense anymore. Nobody wants to, nobody wants to compete. And you see these 3-point shooting, jump shooting games where there's little to no contact. It's like the referee becomes incredibly important with how many fouls they call. So it's just like, the game is not what it used to be. In all honesty, I can't follow it much anymore. I think it's cool that the Nets have Kevin Durant, so I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's not the game it used to be. And the regular season doesn't matter. There's 82 games. No. People are like, well, I'm not watching to the playoffs. And it's like in the playoffs, you get some competitive games, some blowouts. It's a mixed bag, but it's certainly not the league it used to be.
Well, we've gotten to the point where none of these games matter until like mid-May. So it's like, why am I wasting the next 7 months of the year watching basketball when none of these games matter? No one even tries to play defense. No one tries to play basketball because they don't want to get hurt before the playoffs. And now we have 10 teams in the fucking playoffs now. It's like, what are we doing here? It's infuriating as someone who grew up watching basketball in the 90s that loved old school baseball to watch it today.
Well, I've only seen one. I've only seen one basketball game live, and I was entertained, even though I really had no idea what was going on. But I enjoyed it for the spectacle.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say that same thing now. You just got a bunch of jump shooting assholes today, so. Yeah, the time for basketball has passed. But look, we all know that Rob watches a shit ton of movies throughout the course of every single week, especially the weekend. Now, look, my numbers are nowhere near as close as Rob, but I actually did manage to watch and review 7 movies this weekend, which is a lot. I actually watched them, got the reviews out. I was literally like doing reviews for some movies while I'm watching other ones. So as of this moment, I believe I'm up to about 106 movies that were released on the year. I'm not even counting like movie nights or just like other movies that I've randomly watched throughout the course of the year. But I did 7 this weekend. We're obviously going to talk about Black Adam here in a second, but I want to put over a few others that I've seen. I saw Ticket to Paradise this weekend. I'm actually going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow on the Barroom podcast, because Ticket to Paradise was a film with George Clooney and Julia Roberts. And it's a romantic comedy movie. And it's funny that we talk about the concept of romantic comedies after Universal had just released Bros just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And that movie is doing absolutely terribly. Billy Eichner is on social media blaming everyone for not watching his shitty movie. Then here you have this movie, which I believe did like 6-7 times as much as his movie did and then the first weekend. So it's just an extra little FU to Billy Eichner, who's not handling it well at all. Like I said, we'll talk about that more in a little bit depth tomorrow. I saw the film X. Has anyone seen the film X so far this year with Mia Goth? Well, obviously, I put over the film Pearl earlier this year. Pearl is one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it's somewhere in my top 10 right now. I did not go back and watch X. I watched Pearl first. So I was like, well, I need to go back and watch X. I watched it. It's a good movie. I'm not going to say that it's bad, but it's nowhere near as good as Pearl, because instead of being like a character study, it's just more of like a straight up like slasher movie. But it's a good solid slasher movie, considering the fact that we reviewed Scream and Halloween, which were terrible slasher movies. This one's far better than both of those. So if you hated those movies, I definitely recommend X if you haven't seen that one yet. I saw a Hulu movie called Rosaline, which is kind of like a Romeo and Juliet parody movie. I literally got 7 minutes into the movie and I stopped. I didn't even bother watching the rest. I quit, and I did a review, and my review was I tapped out after 7 minutes. That's the entire review. I didn't write anything else about the movie. I was done there. 1 out of 5. Done. The other movie I saw, The Greatest Beer Run Ever, which I think me and Rob actually talked about. I saw the trailer for this movie, and it looked really, really good. I say it's also a good movie. I think Zac Efron is really underrated as an actor. He's had a couple of movies this year that I've really enjoyed. Like Gold was another movie I thought was really good. He's very good in like more serious roles. Obviously, if you've seen him in stuff like High School Musical and like was it Baywatch review, you probably won't think the same way. But he's been very good in some of these movies. This is a good movie as well. I think the narrative was a little bit unbalanced because they're handling kind of like the whole reaction of the Vietnam War. So they try to squeeze in too much at the same time, and it's not really as focused as it needs to be, but it's still a pretty good movie there. Then I watched Emily the Criminal, which is the Aubrey Plaza movie. All I have to say is that there's a pandemic of unlikable female protagonists, because for a second here, they keep trying to present these women who they think is going to be likable but aren't likable. So you have this woman in this film who's like 6 figures in debt. She's a criminal, a convict, and she's still blaming everyone else for her problems. So she gets to like this whole criminal ring, and it's so dumb. It gets to a point where she's literally robbing a bunch of guys in Los Angeles, a criminal organization, with a taser and a box cutter. And you're supposed to believe that this woman wouldn't get just like murked in like 2 seconds. Very, very dumb movie. Do not recommend. But the main event, the movie that was the best movie I've seen this weekend, and probably the best movie, one of the best movies I've seen this year, is a film called Old Man with Stephen Lang. I know this one is on like some video services right now. If you have a chance to watch this movie is absolutely brilliant. We talked about this before. This is bare bones filmmaking at its finest. It's Stephen Lang with about 3 other actors that are in the course of the movie. There's only 4 actors in the entire movie. They have essentially 2 sets for the entire film. It couldn't have been made for more than like $1 million or $2 million. I'm pretty sure most of that was spent on his salary, not anything else on here. But it's such a great story-driven and character-driven film. You have 2 guys. One's a crazy old man in the woods living by himself, and another one's a hiker who gets lost. And you know that one of them is dangerous, but you just don't know which one it is. So they're literally like sitting in a room in this cabin talking to each other the entire time, trying to figure out who the dangerous crazy person is. So there's a lot of backstory. There's a lot of character progression in there. Great movie. It's not even that long. I think it's like about a little over 90 minutes. I can't recommend this film enough. That this is why I watch so many shitty films, because I can find one of these movies that are actually pretty good. This film is pretty damn good. So that's my movie take for the weekend. If you guys have a movie take or any movie recommendations for anything you guys seen this weekend, you guys can throw it out now. What did you see that at least kept your will to live going?
Well, I'm trying to struggle here. I saw the was it the 1956 Anastasia with Ingrid Bergman and Yul Brenner. I knocked that off my list from my DVR, and it's, I mean, in terms of movies, that's pretty much what I can think of right now. I mean, although I will kind of throw in real quick, I not only like High School Musical, I love High School Musical. I One of my birthday themes was a High School Musical themed birthday party. Just to mention that.
Why?
I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed.
Well, I saw Near Dark for the first time this weekend, which is Catherine Bigelow's vampire movie from 1987. It's a lot of cinephiles really like it. They think it's really artistic. It wasn't bad. It's sort of like it follows kind of a Lost Boys story where this Midwestern cowboy gets seduced and taken in by this group of vampires, and a lot of logic issues, some plot issues, and at the end it just ends really dumb. But it's worth checking out if you like vampire movies. Outside of that, I saw a couple of really bad Hammer horror movies, and I also saw this slasher movie called The New York Ripper, which is the most pornographic sleaze fest movie I've ever seen. It was made by this Italian director named Lucio Fulci, who also did The House by the Cemetery, which is part of Criterion's 80s horror collection this month. So check those out if you're into that. But yeah, it was a lot of like unnecessary like sexual stuff. It was just like, okay, I guess if
Did you just feel dirty after watching it?
A little bit. Like I kind of just wanted to fast forward through most of it, because it was just like, okay, I don't need to see that. I'm good.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of movies out there. It feels good to kind of like, because all these movies, for the majority of them, are like kind of like smaller budget. Like a lot of them weren't even released in theaters. So at least they were released earlier this year. But like I said, these last few weeks has just been such a bad stretch of films. It's like I gotta get something to kind of like just re-energize my urge to like watch movies, because the things that we've been seeing the last few weeks have not done the trick. But we did get a good one tonight, and shout out to our good friend TW who's joining us here tonight. Let's go ahead and talk about our main film here of the night. Let's talk about the one that we're all here to tell you, Mr. Rock with Black Adam. So we'll see you guys here in just a second.
His powers are not a gift, but a curse. You can be the destroyer of this world. There's no one on this planet that can stop me or save you. The end of one era is the beginning of another.
Ladies and gentlemen, Black Adam, if you believe it or not, this is one of the only two Warner Brothers movies, according to them, that they could afford to release this year. They pushed back Shazam, which was supposed to come out, I believe, next month. Shazam was supposed to come out, but they pushed it back to next year because, according to them, they could only afford to promote two movies at the end of this year, and the other one was Don't Worry, Darling. So that may not have been the smartest financial decision on their end, but this is the one that they're pretty much throwing all of their money and marbles into, is Black Adam. This is a film that has been in pretty much developmental hell since about 2007. So you have to look at like when The Rock first left Hollywood, when he was very early in his career. We're talking about the days when he was doing like Walking Tall and like the Game Plan and stuff like that. He's had interest, and people in Warner Brothers has approached him like, hey, you want to do this Black Adam movie? They've talked about it. There was a lot of back and forth with producers, the studios. They can never really seem to get the financing going. The scheduling never worked out. And then the project just kind of died for a very long period of time. Then all of a sudden in the 2010s, The Rock's popularity explodes. He gets his own production company. He's doing all these Fast and Furious movies. He's the highest paid guy in Hollywood now. And now it's like, well, hey, now can we go back and try to do this Black Adam movie? I mean, I am turning 50 here. It's not like I have a whole lot of time to get this movie done. So they decide, okay, well, let's actually put, a whole backing behind this. And then finally in 2017, they get the balls running. They get this film greenlit. And then here we have the final release of the film Black Adam starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, I think the biggest concern a lot of people have with this one is that if you look at The Rock, he's not really a great actor. Like, he's not a guy who's going to be winning any awards for, like, dramatic roles or anything like that. But he's a great action guy, right? Like, that's his bread and butter. That's his lane. So a lot of people were worried about, if I'm going to see Black Adam, am I going to actually go see a superhero movie, or am I just going to go see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson playing a superhero? I think if you were worried about Dwayne Johnson's portrayal in this film, those fears were completely unfounded, because I found him to be very enjoyable in this role. Now, there's going to be some questions later on about the portrayal of his character, but let's just start off here. What did you guys think of Dwayne Johnson's performance here in the film? I'll start off with Orange Hat.
Honestly, I thought it was hit and miss a little bit. More hit than miss, obviously. But when he was portraying certain moments, it was well done. When they had to, we're talking full spoilers, right?
We'll wait a little bit for the full spoilers. We'll get to that.
Okay, well, alrighty then. I'll wait on that. But for the most part, he did very well in this movie. I won't say it's a absolute 10 out of 10, but I really did enjoy him as not so much a superhero, but more of an anti-hero, which is what Black Adam is when he's not being a villain.
Yeah. What you think, Rick?
I thought he was fine. I don't think this is the greatest performance I have seen. I don't know if it's his best performance, but then I'm partial to a lot of the Fast and Furious films. He was fine as this kind of taciturn figure. When he was asked to be a little more dramatic and emotional, shall we say, I was not completely convinced, but it was an entertaining performance. Not the best I've seen, but certainly better than some of the other DC performances that I've seen. One in particular, which we'll also talk about in the spoilers section, I guess.
Oh boy, I already see where you're going, and I don't like it. Mongo, what did you think of The Rock in this film?
Well, I think The Rock, he certainly looked the part. I mean, the guy's massive. So, he certainly looks the part, and that helps. As far as his acting, I've never really been a big fan of The Rock's acting. I just kind of feel like he plays the same character a lot. And this was not much different. So I don't think he did really well on the dramatic parts. But I think he nailed the action parts now. I think he did really good on the action.
Robert?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Being called by my mother home for dinner. Look, I
could have gone with like the water boy, like Roberto, but I thought I'd give you some respect.
I appreciate that. Look, I am not a fan of The Rock. I kind of think, even if his movies have made money, I'm not, I haven't watched them. There's a lot of movies that he's come out with that I haven't seen. I mean, The Tooth Fairy, like the completely ridiculous, kids movie or family movie. But you know what? Like I actually enjoyed his performance here. I don't think they asked him to do a whole lot. The way he kind of delivers the indifference to lives being lost, or the fact that he's wiping people out. Like, I thought that was pretty awesome. So I that being the case, I definitely wanted to buy in more than not. But he didn't create a reason for me to be irritated, and that's always a plus, especially with studio filmmaking these days. So, I mostly bought his performance, even in the dramatic moments, even when he's going through his backstory about his son. I enjoyed that moment in particular, but But yeah, they didn't ask him to do a whole lot, and I think he mostly delivered.
Johnson, you're the last one on the roll call. What'd you think?
All right. Well, I think um, he he met the expectation placed upon him. So it's I mean, it's probably not gonna be like super dramatic anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of punching and fighting and kicking to get to. So probably my biggest like concern with the storytelling stuff is like that like the dark night of the soul part for him. I just I didn't buy it that much. So and but I didn't expect to either. So
yeah, the thing with like Black Adam is like there's been so many like modern takes on, oh, what if Superman was evil? What if Superman was like a bad guy? It's like, well, the character of Black Adam is kind of that. It's like, yeah, what if Superman is a bad guy? It's like that's essentially what you have here with Black Adam. And one of the things that I noticed about this film that is completely different from like the slew of Marvel movies that we've seen over the years, even the more like recent ones, like the Eternals and like the Captain Marvels, is that I think with Marvel, it's become so formatic because everything there, it's like it's all in a big giant system, and they just regurgitate one movie after another after another. And then when you're tired of one movie, here's a trailer for the next movie we have coming out in a few weeks. This one really did take a good solid time in building like the origin story behind Black Adam, because I think a lot of people are aware of the character but not really is not as well known as like a Shazam or Superman, obviously. So I think they did a good job with the backstory here, and then watching like the opening of the film, like this really to me felt like a superhero movie. Like we watched, what was it, Thor the Dark, not Thor the Dark World, Love and Thunder a couple months back. I know there's so many of them, you get them all confused. But we watched Love and Thunder a few months back, and it gets to a point where even for what's supposed to be a superhero movie, it just doesn't feel like a superhero movie anymore. Like the tone is just completely off. There's nothing about it that really feels like, oh, this is an epic that I'm watching on screen. Even though they spent $250 million to produce this, you just don't get that film that this is basically anything more than just another slap on my portfolio that's going to be on Disney Plus for the next couple of months here. So, what did you guys kind of felt about the origin story and the opening of this film, and how they kind of set it apart from all the other DC movies that they put out to this point? Did you guys like it? Like effects wise, story wise? I know Rob talked about how he liked the backstory between him and his kid. How'd you guys feel about it? Anyone can go.
Honestly, I thought that it was well done. They did a good job at explaining or getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, and then, well, that would require spoiling us something. I'll simply say that they did a good job pitching the beginning of the origin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought it was necessary to try to figure out the story, because there are a lot of us, like myself, who are not familiar with Black Adam, the character. So you needed to build up the story and try to explain it. There were in the early parts, it was slightly reminiscent of Spartacus. Not to give too much away, the slave who's going to fight off the empire, and I mean it needed to happen. I wasn't like overwhelmed with it, but I thought it worked. Again, I keep going back to the word adequate, in that I don't think I will be as enthusiastic as most of you, but I admit I was entertained. It's certainly better than most of the other superhero movies that I've seen. Certainly more than Love and Thunder or Morbius, or I don't know, whatever else has come out the superhero this year. I lose track, but it was good. You needed that background for people, so it worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, the storytelling basics are there. Not wowed by it, not blown away, but just adequate storytelling. And I'm sorry that this is such a low bar. that studio movies have to hit now. But it's like
Yeah.
it didn't preach at you. It didn't. I mean, there's once you get into the humans, the humans sort of like bringing him back. Some of the things really are kind of annoying or like great, but it's not overly done. You don't feel like you're being preached at for the most part. And I felt like coming into this movie, the beginning part was just like, okay, I feel like I'm watching a movie in a movie theater, being entertained. I'm in.
Let me ask you. I want to play off on something that Rob just said here, because if you don't know the story for this film, so obviously this takes place, or the original setting takes place like 26 BC, back where this fictional town. Oh, what's the place called? It's is it Sabak? Pandak. Okay, sorry. So it's back during like the Egyptian times, where there's like still slavery, and the whole setup is that the king at the time is looking for this crown that was crafted by a demonic entity, and whoever wears the crown comes to great power, right? That's kind of the whole setup. So they have like all these slaves looking for this mineral that is used to, I guess, create the crown. And you have this one kid who's kind of like the rebellious one who stands up against, the king's rule. And there's this whole sequence where I guess they capture the kid, and you think that they're going to execute him, and then the kid just kind of like disappears, right? And that's kind of where you're left with. And then you fast forward into modern day, and this town is basically like a giant like slab town now that you would see like in the Middle East, where it's still under rule of like some criminal like organization that has occupied the land. So there's a lot of themes here about colonialism and anti-imperialism, which is a very odd way of presenting that in a film like Black Adam, because John made this point last week on the Black Pill stream, that you're talking about a character in Black Adam that is essentially an imperialist. Like, he is a ruler, like he would be ruling over people the same way that the film is kind of denouncing, but because they're portraying him in a different light in this movie, they're trying to portray him more as an anti-hero than just a straight up villain, a superhero, Superman level villain. They kind of mix a lot of those themes. It was kind of, I guess to say, weird to mix it with a character like this. So let's talk about the decision here. The Dwayne The Rock Johnson is obviously a super popular character, so they decided that instead of having him conform to the character, they were going to have the character conform to him. So we needed to change the origin of the character to be more of an anti-hero, not a straight up villain, because we don't want to hurt The Rock's popularity by doing essentially a villain superhero, which I don't think they've even done too much of. And let's be honest, the last time they tried that was Morbius. I don't think we need any more of those type of movies coming up here. But what was kind of your thoughts on the way that they handled the decision of I guess the portrayal of Black Adam's character, for those who know more about Black Adam in the comic books compared to how they portrayed him here in this movie? Do you think that they strayed too far away from the comic books, or you think they at least did a solid job for what they were going for here?
That must be a question for Mongo, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I got put on the spot, and it's the one time I got caught with my pants down because I have no idea about Black Adam as a comic book character. I'm not a DC guy, but the desire. Well, Black Adam is a villain in the comic books. They kind of changed that in recent years, which actually becomes important later in the movie. I don't know if we're spoiling it now, but when we get to it, I'll talk about it. We'll get there. Yeah,
everyone's chopping at the bit for spoiler talks. Like, we'll get there.
I mean, on the origin story, I liked how we got into the origin story. I liked the setup for it. I thought it was an important part to understand the rage of the character, because that's really his driving force. Is his desire for vengeance, even though that he kind of has it already. It's just never over. It's kind of like so it kind of goes over into that Punisher territory, where he's a character based on revenge, and then you kind of get the revenge. So it's kind of like, why do you still exist? Like you did what you were supposed to do, and yet you're still here. And so you kind of get that lost sense with Black Adam, and it's not even that late into the movie where you do get a sense that the character is lost, that he really doesn't have a purpose in this world, and that kind of leads to something he does later. And I actually understood it. But how it deviates so much from the comic books, I actually have no idea when it comes to that.
Well, it almost sounds like, and again, I don't know Black Adam very well as a comic book character, but it sounds like they kind of made him into a freedom fighter, because he's trying to free his people when he's been asleep for 5,000 years or whatever. So, and I get that, but I don't know how you seriously believe that with a straight face with his actions. You know what I mean? And that's the whole entertainment aspect of, which is why it's like, for me, it really glosses over that stuff. I mean, it might be there for the person that wants to like pick at the plot and whatever, because trust me, there's issues with the plot. I get it. I just had a good time with this movie where it was like, okay, I don't care about the things I'm supposed to be critical of because I'm actually enjoying myself. So I'm probably not the best critic to be listening to on this, but it's just like, as a movie going experience, I just had a good time, and I haven't had many of those this year.
Yeah. Orange Hat, let me ask you a question. Do you have a little bit more insight on the character than anyone else does?
I know that in the comics, he is in his earlier years, he was a pure villain. He is not anti-hero. He's not even anywhere in the positive alignment. This guy wanted vengeance against the wizards who created him. Yeah. He also found Shazam, or Captain Marvel originally, to be completely unworthy of the power, and so he was often his mirror, essentially. Yeah. Of course, he came before him, so there is a difference. There's actually a short movie where it's Superman and Captain Marvel versus Black Adam, and it's like, oh damn, this dude literally says it, and instead of being depowered or anything like that, he just turns to dust because he had lived for over 5,000 years. Now, but as for him later on in the comics, I'm not that big of a comic person, but I do know that they do eventually start putting him in the more relatable angle. And it's like, this dude is a killer. First off, he came from 5,000 years ago. Times were very different back then, folks. They didn't have any of this non-binary transgenderism nonsense. They basically had, you're either a slave or a servant, or you are the one in power. He was sick and tired of being a servant. He wanted to free his people. He did so, and he then went too far. So this is the kind of thing that people need to realize. He is, or when we say anti-hero, what we mean is the loosest definition of anti-hero that we can give, because he is a killer. This dude kills. He is not afraid to do it.
Without
hesitation. He doesn't hesitate. This is a person who has to learn to hold back. He has to learn to restrain himself from going overboard, especially in a modern world where heroes are perceived differently. One of the best lines in this movie, and it's not really giving away spoilers, is, "I'm not a hero, and I never said I was." And it's truly speaks to the core of who Black Adam is. He never said he was a hero. Everybody believes in some sort of myth about him.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of I don't want to call them callbacks, but a lot of elements that remind me of other films when I think about Black Adam so far. It does make me think a little bit about Spartacus. When you have the slave who's going to be fighting against the oppressive regime. The Crown made me think of the One True Ring, and then you also have the myth of Black Adam for the people. It was a little King Arthur like, because one day he shall return to free our people. So you've got a lot of that, but I think I think, Jacob, you're right. People are not going to go see a movie where you start off with this man or this being a straight up villain. You needed to give him a reason for that hatred, a reason for his thirst for revenge, and yeah, they gave him one. We found out kind of a twist closer to the end, but I think it worked. It gave him the motivation, and it also gave the idea that the Kondakians, is that what you call them, the Kondakians,
Yeah, I completely
the
forgot the name of that
Kandakis,
town.
whatever.
You know what's
They
strange?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that it gave them this founding myth of their people, and of, despite being occupied, they would have a liberator. I think it worked. I think it worked well, especially for those of us who know very little about these types of stories, or the background of Black Adam. Sorry.
Yeah, and I
I
just
will
wanted to.
say-
Oh, I'm so
Oh, go ahead,
sorry.
Rob.
I just wanted to say real quick because I've because of this movie club, I've been to the movies a lot and watched a lot of trailers. I've seen the
Mhm.
Black Adam trailer at least a dozen times. Okay, I'm sick of it. However, the trailer did this movie no favors. It stuffs all of his expositional dialogue about himself and his past in the front of the trailer. We don't find any of that out, or we don't find out most of that until almost before the start of the third act. And so it's like it completely misrepresents the movie. And so I think the movie is better than the trailer portrays it as, but it was like I was so at odds with how that was presented and how the movie actually played out.
Well, I will say, like, so to kind of bounce off of what Rick was saying, is it made me think of the Chronicles of Riddick. And I was like, I think it's funny because I know, like, The Rock and Vin Diesel don't get along, and I was like, here's your Chronicles of Riddick show. But it was like in that particular movie, they talk about like getting a bad guy to fight evil for like almost like in a proxy war situation sort of thing. And I also want to say I agree with Rob about the trailer. I've only seen it like once, but I appreciated the fact that they waited till the third act to kind of reveal the more grounded reason for his vengeance. Because you already had a lot of things going into play when he first shows up, because is he going to protect the lady? Is he going to protect his people? Is he a hero? Is he not a hero? And then you have a lot of things to play off of, like perception versus reality in terms of like understanding the myth. And I think this is something that's kind of true in other aspects of life too, is just like when you meet somebody, you have a certain level of expectations, and you have, if it is like the myth, you have a certain amount of facts behind that person that you can kind of like anchor to. And the fact that he had some of that like fish out of water sort of experience as to what a hero is in modern day versus what I called on Orange Hat in reviews, Bible times. It's very, very different mentality. And you have a lot of that parallel with values and perceptions and the differences that geography and time have shaped us with. So yes, they did a good job of introducing him and kind of playing off of that. It's almost like a Wonder Woman vibe, because I know her movie is mostly a fish out of water sort of thing, but it's kind of like a playful sort of thing. You can kind of see this in how he interacts with the kid. And I appreciated that, because it's like, oh, it's a kid, and at least he's not killing the kid. So you do see some kind of vague boundaries as to he does kill people, but he also doesn't kill some people, and that.
Well, it's slightly Terminator 2 level, where you have that connection between this killing machine that doesn't quite understand the modern world, or the world that he's in, and this kid. Not an exact parallel, but it hits similar themes to me.
Well, it's a similar movie too, because even Arnold wasn't considered, any Clark Gable of his time, and has a similar sort of The funny one-liners and the deadpan delivery. And...
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the characters here, because there's a lot of characters to talk about in this movie. So you have two camps here. You have the people of the village. One of the woman's name, Sarah Sari, I believe her name is. She was actually on a show that was on USA that only lasted like 1 or 2 seasons. Shahi, yeah, she was on a show that lasted like 1 or 2 seasons 10 years ago. That's how I remember her from. So her whole story is that her and her brother and a few other people were, I guess, looking for the crown, but obviously the mercenaries are also looking for the crown, so they're clashing on that end. And then obviously there's this little there's this like subplot with like her kid, where the kid is kind of the one that connects with Adam, like kind of on a human level, while he's just going on like this murder spree throughout the course of the town. And then while that's happening, you have the storyline with the Justice Society, where you have Amanda Waller, a short little cameo by Viola Davis here, hires Hawkman and a few other, I guess, low-tier heroes. It's like, hey, Black Adam is awake. He's causing havoc. We need you guys to go out there and bring him in. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of other superheroes that you guys could have called to maybe done a better job of this. I mean, clearly, as we show towards the end, you have the contact of a very powerful hero, which we'll get to later in a second. But no, we caused these guys. I will say this, though. What's his name? Aldous Hodge and Pierce Brosnan, they were the two best supporting characters in this entire film. I really liked them in this film. I liked their portrayal of their characters. The other two heroes who were with them, the bootleg Ant-Man and the other one, the one with the wind. Yeah, those two, I was like, yeah, those. Yeah, exactly. Yep, yeah, actually, that actually works. Bootleg Storm. Those two, you could have written them out entirely. They would have changed absolutely nothing for the sake of this movie. I don't know why they were in it. There's a lot of characters kind of a comedy relief. You couldn't get that out of the other characters. Like, I guess not. I mean, you already had like the fat guy who was supposed to be like, what was he, like a doctor? Oh yeah, the electrician. The electrician. Yeah.
Kept going back to the baby come back song. Yes,
that was a comedy. That was
my God, that was cringe comedy.
So there's so many characters in here. I think that's probably one of the weaker parts of this movie. It's like if they just got rid of a few of these characters, it would have been a little more streamlined. Maybe the focus of the narrative would have made a little bit more sense. But what did you guys think of just the side characters? Who did you like and who didn't you like throughout the course of this film? I'll start with Rob.
I mean, I didn't really like any of the human characters. I kind of thought, I understand why they're there. I understand for the plot why they're there and why they exist. However, like, it's like the Sarah Shahi or whatever, like in the one scene when Black Adam is arguing with Hawkman, she just emasculates both of them. And it's like, I literally said out loud in the theater, yeah, just emasculate them into doing what you want. And so, you know,
the power of motherhood.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's a motherhood trick, so I felt it was very appropriate. It was, at least she wasn't like a young teenage girl who was like a YA superhero or something, because I would have really been upset with it. As a mother, I can kind of excuse that behavior.
But it's
not only
it's
that,
like
it's a mother that has lost her child and wants her child back more than anything.
Right, but it's these macho dudes that are like physically imposing, and that's why it's just like, okay, sure. So there's some stuff there that's just kind of annoying. The preachy kind of dialogue about the invaders and, you know, being ruled over and stuff is just dumb. But yeah, again, I get why it's there. The supporting superheroes were a lot like X-Men characters to me. Like the amateur, like up and coming X-Men joining the two veterans, and even Pierce Brosnan came off like a Professor X character. Mm-hmm. The headquarters look like Professor X's mansion to me. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't watched too many recent superhero movies, but for the most part, they were just kind of non-factors. But you know, not completely charmless. You know, they have good lines here and there. They're not completely useless or annoying. It's just they're a part of the fabric of a superhero comic book movie.
No, Rob, I got the exact same feelings when I saw the Hawkeye, was it Hawkman's mansion? I thought, yeah, that's pretty much looks like the Xavier School for gifted students or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of the vibes of I'm sorry, I just kept calling them not Doctor Strange, not Ant-Man with a little Peter Parker mixed in, not Storm.
Yeah.
So I just kept going back to what they were not supposed to be. Um, I like
they were just real quick. They were characters who was like, okay, they introduced them to this in this movie, so they're gonna have like their moment of shining at some point in this film. It just never comes. It just gets to a point where it's like, okay, then why were they even in the movie at this point?
But you forget the Henry Winkler cameo there.
Oh my god, that's right.
That was weird.
Yeah.
That's why
And I
it'll
was-
be a box office smash.
Uncle Al.
Uncle Al. And I was well, that's it. That's an issue. You're trying to establish some sort of legacy series that is not there. It doesn't exist. So I don't know any of these people, and I give them credit for trying to give them something, because with with Atom Smasher, not Ant-Man, Peter Parker, I guess I give him this running gag where he's always munching on something, usually at the most inappropriate times, and they're trying to develop some sort of romance between him and Cyclone, not Storm. They were trying. They gave it a good shot. But my sense is that they were put in there to, I guess, expand on future films, to try to establish them in this stumbling franchise. So I didn't dislike them, but I liked Amon. I think that's the kid, the one who's always kind of rebellious. I mean, come on, he at the beginning, the son,
Oh,
son.
yeah.
I think his name is Amon. Any person who listens to Smashing Pumpkins as he's trying to skateboard his way across the oppressive regime, what's not to like?
That whole bit felt like something straight out of the '90s, where it's like, oh, how can we rebel against society? I got it, skateboards.
Right.
I'm not gonna listen to you, cop.
Skateboard with bullet with butterfly wings.
Yeah.
Well,
I
will
started
say-
jamming along to that.
I will say it did feel kind of like the 90s in some ways for me, because a lot, like you guys talk about the X-Men stuff, and like now that you've said it, it's like, oh, it does kind of feel like the X-Men Evolution TV series like Cartoon Network used to run.
Mhm.
And I really liked that as a kid. So I can see why they added the extra characters too in some way, because it was like there is some like criticism in Marvel's movies for like, oh well, why isn't so and so here? Like they don't have a lot of people like rushing to defend the world all the time. It's become like it's an increasingly obvious gag, and so it's like, okay, so they tried to stem off that, and then also they can kind of pull in this like family like dynamic at times with it. And I think that's probably why I liked this movie as much as I did, is because a lot of it is about family, so going off of Fast and Furious right there.
Well, here's another thing that's pretty cool that DC actually is doing that Marvel can't seem to do. At least DC is actually pulling from their B and C list characters, where they're just, or Marvel is trying to, but nobody gives a shit, where DC's B and C line characters are actually more known. I know about Atom Smasher a little bit here and there. I've seen him in other mediums. Cyclone is actually new to me, but I hear that she actually is in the comics, or the comic lines, I think, with Shazam. I do know that it was reported on early on that she was race swapped, but honestly, in this movie, I didn't have much of a problem with it. She did a great job as an actress. She did her job well, and there wasn't any of that, oh, I'm oppressed, any of that crap, which usually comes with a lot of race swaps. Let's be totally honest here.
I mean, my thing with her, like the whole race swapping of her character, is that I just didn't feel anything for it as a character, so it wasn't even worth getting emotionally invested in the race swap. It's like you could just take that character out of the movie entirely for me. So
honestly, you're right. Her contributions were few and far between. So was Adam Smashers, honestly, but at least they actually drew from their own B and C rosters to actually bring in somebody that is possibly known or even a little bit known. Now, the other characters, Sarah Shahi's character, I've liked Sarah Shahi ever since Person of Interest when I saw her in that show. I mean, she can play a sociopath very well.
Yeah.
The kid, he's a kid, so I understand that it's like, oh God, will this kid shut up or once in a while, please. The other, the fat uncle, it's like, dude, okay, Doctor Strange says you're gonna die by electricity. I'm pretty sure you'll probably die from a massive coronary before that, though. But you gotta give him props for going Leroy Jenkins in front of a freaking dead or later on in the movie. I'll give him props for that.
Well, and I would say this too.
Yeah.
His character felt like, God, what's the guy's name from? Remember, like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, the fat guy's name, Nick something.
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost. Yeah.
Nick Frost. Yeah. It felt like he was playing like a character that like Nick Frost would play, but of course
Middle
because
Eastern
this
Nick
film
Frost.
is exactly is Middle Eastern like Nick Frost. Is like, well, we can't have him because he wouldn't fit in the setting, so we need someone as close to as Nick Frost as we can get. That's what I felt about his character.
I just want to say real quick, Sarah Shahi's accent was terrible. I'm sorry.
Yes.
She did not convince me.
Her accent was fucking terrible.
Yeah, and by the way, she's in a million things. I saw her in The Sopranos. I mean, like you said, The Person of Interest, NCIS. She's been in a lot of like TV shows over the years, so she's well known. She's talented.
May I address Spencer's last comment, please?
Yeah.
That's not exactly what I was saying. The other one, actually. Her race, or it's not that her race, or I was making an argument that her race swap was, or I'm pro race swap. I'm like actually very much against race swaps. However, from an objective standpoint, her character was well done. Do I think that they should have gone with a white person with red hair? Like they should have, because that's what the character is. Absolutely. However, her character didn't. Her character wasn't woke. Let's just say that.
I think someone had labeled that real quick.
Yeah.
I think someone had labeled that as ginger side, which is the new layer for like
the ginger side. Yeah, the great ginger side. Now, believe me, I am fully against that stuff. I even freaking called out Dwayne The Rock Johnson for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Back on Twitter, I believe it's my nuked account that actually was doing that. But
and that's another thing that's kind of tough too, because you're talking about race swaps when you're talking about Dwayne The Rock Johnson being the lead character of this film. It's like,
yeah,
let's
he's
be honest,
he's Maori, and he's playing a freaking Egyptian.
Exactly. Black Adam was not half Samoan, so it's like, it's kind of hard to make that argument. So.
As someone who is completely unfamiliar with these characters, I would not have known that Cyclone was anything other than what she played. So it was completely irrelevant to me. The only thing that I kept thinking is she's like Storm's long lost sister. I know it's not strictly the same thing. I mean, that's what I would have thought, because they're both black women. But it was irrelevant to me as to what her race was, and if it's it wouldn't have affected me one way or another whether I thought she was good. And I thought she did. I thought she and Adam Smasher, they played the parts as written. I cannot fault them for that. That's what they were given to do. Try to foster some sort of romance or an effort at romance between them. try to be something of a comic relief, and she's the more sensible one of the two. So again, I can't fault the actors themselves for doing what they were told to do and playing the parts as written and as directed. So that's not an issue for me whether she was. I would not have known. Honestly, I would not have known if she was race swapped any more than I would have known if he was race
Yeah.
swapped.
That's what it's called.
And then, like I said, the guy who played Hawkeye, Hodge, did great as Hawkman in this film too. So I mean, the whole like the race swapping aspect of it was pretty like hit and miss. I think they did more right than they did wrong. And then when they did wrong, it wasn't just the swapping of the characters, just the way that the character was written to begin with. That's kind of where they left off on that end. So yeah, there was a lot of things going on here. One thing that I wanted to follow up on, this is kind of our last topic before we get into the kind of the spoiler talk, because I know it's been itching at a couple people here. But we get to one point midway during the film where essentially they're trying to I guess keep Black Adam from conquering like this land or whatever. But you see him starting to make the transition of he's starting to understand kind of like the rules of like modern society. It's like, yeah, you can't just kill everyone who opposes you. And then there's this big like showdown with like him and Hawkman, where Hawkman is so prideful of he thinks that he can take Black Adam one-on-one, and Black Adam just like tosses him like around the entire building. Like, dude, what are you even thinking here? Like, you're just like getting your ass kicked here. What do you guys think of just the overall action of the movie? Because I guess you can split up into two different categories here. You can talk about the action and kind of the effects. I think the effects in what I've noticed with these films is that the effects in like the smaller shots tend to be pretty good, but when they try to go to like a much bigger scale, that's where it just feels like computer animated. You guys get what I'm saying? Like when when they can get more intimate with the shots and the effects, it looks a lot better. But when it's like wide scale, like when the temple like blows up, like that just looks like a giant like purple puff of smoke that like somebody did on their computer. It didn't look authentic at all. What do you guys kind of think of the way that they flip between the effects and the action?
I mean, I personally really liked a lot of the fighting, like the fighting between the characters, like Black Adam, and I actually was reminded quite a bit of Alex Ross sort of graphic novels, whether it's Kingdom Come or actually I can't think of another one right now because I'm such a I haven't read that many, but I really like the sort of effects in the fight scenes. And the spectacle of that really kept my interest during them, and they're pretty drawn out at times. So I thought it was mostly successful. I think you're right. The bigger the composition, you sort of see the cracks in the CGI, and it's just like like any Marvel or DC movie. So that's sort of to be expected. But the entertainment of the fight scenes themselves, I was pretty drawn in by.
I think they had a good balance of plot and character influence, which is something I appreciate. Like, it's like, okay, we came to the movie where they fight. Are they fighting for like good reasons? There were a couple of fight scenes where I'm like, hey, if you just talk this out, you might be able to stop fighting. And that's why I kind of actually appreciated that mothering moment more later on. But like when he first wakes up and there's a bunch of people around and Saudi's over there and she needs help. I mean, he goes right into action, and that's a good scene. And then later on when he's fighting with Carter, and it's becomes like almost an embodiment of their clashing philosophies about it's better to kill someone who's going to hurt others than to give mercy to everyone. And because not everybody that you give a second chance to is going to live up to it. Not everybody that as a villain is going to be redeemed and turned into a hero. And it's better to be safe than sorry in those instances. So I thought that was very well done. And even with like Dr. Fate and Carter's kind of differences in seeing how things, because obviously Dr. Fate is a very humble character. He's been around forever, so he has a lot more experience and a lot more wisdom with his moments, but he still knows it's time to do what he's got to do. And then Carter's like, let's just get this done. And he kind of like runs in, and he's very hot-headed. And so I liked all the foiling that I saw there. Like, this is just juxtaposed against that, and that mirrors that. And It's a very it was mostly very well put together for that. So the writer in me was satisfied with those.
Manga. You
Go
go.
next.
I like the fight scenes. I think the fight scenes were pretty good mostly. But to double back to what you guys were talking about when it comes to the characters, I definitely think we could have got rid of the two heroes, Cyclone and Atom Smasher. Outside of comic relief, Atom Smasher really adds nothing to the movie. Cyclone almost really adds nothing at all. Even she's not even comic relief in certain parts of the movie. So usually, even the human characters, even though I didn't really love them, I understood their purpose. The older woman, whose name I can't remember already. She exists because somebody has to tell the story of the crown. Like somebody has to speak on behalf of the civilians of Kahndaq. Somebody has to understand what the crown is and why they're searching for it, yada yada yada. And the boy is sort of a parallel to Black Adam's son. So we understand why the human characters exist. So, but outside of that, Dr. Fate, we know why he exists. We know why Hawkman exists. So we kind of justify every character except Cyclone and Atom Smasher. Like we can justify every character being there except those two. But generally speaking, I did like the action scenes. I think they were pretty well shot, especially the Dr. Fate action scenes, which I thought were very impressive. Obviously, they were just kind of, hey, we got to do some kind of Doctor Strange like magic stuff in this. You kind of have to do it, but I thought it was very well done. I liked Hawkman. I like his fight scenes. I think as a character, he's a bit of a cunt, but that's just kind of how they chose to write the character. But I think that they did a good job of making Black Adam look very strong, incredibly powerful, especially when he put the hands on Atom Smasher. I thought that was like really good at really showcasing what Black Adam can do, and that's really what people came to see. People came to see, Black Adam beat the shit out of other people, and that's what they got. They got a lot of that. So I think I was satisfied with just that part, and the rest of it was just kind of like sprinkles on the ice cream at that point.
Well, I will say real quickly, I agree with you, but I think it's nice having Cyclone and Atom Smasher there too, just because they're kind of like watching the older people work too in a way. And they serve as another reference points for the audience in terms of how we should react. Because like if they're really, really impressed with something, then we should be super really impressed with you. I mean, most people would be anyway if they're smart. But I mean, like I saw once, some people brought their kids. I mean, like not like super young kids, but it's still like some kids were there. And again, I think it pulls in more of a family feature sort of effect. So like I'm a mom, I have 2 kids. I wouldn't care if they saw this movie. So some movies I would care if they saw.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a better, film to take your, kids to than some of the other ones that we've seen over the last few weeks. But then again, that's not really saying a whole lot.
My kids and I have been rewatching the Superman animated show from WB from like the 90s, I guess. And it's incredibly well written, especially compared to a lot of stuff today. Yeah. But it's a very family friend. Like I'm entertained, the kids are entertained, and there's like a 20-some year difference between us, And it's nice to have that. Like and again, speaking to the younger characters too, one of the problems that we have in American society, largely because of the breakup of family and the influence of technology and the flexibility of the job market, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But it's like you don't have a lot of people that stick around and become like apprentices anymore. Like actually in the film industry itself, part of the reason that a lot of these like writers just suck these days is because most of them are nepotism hires, and they're calling in favors and they know people, and it's not like they're actually there on talent, and they haven't been there to like study under things as much as sometimes they're studying the wrong things, like rings of power people. So it's nice to see that they're getting that experience. There's, like I said, they serve as reference points. They're getting their training in, and they're being kind of like they're being taught so that one day that they'll be able to be, when they're in these situations, they'll have experience to fall back on. Because it's just like the army in that case. You rise only to the level that you are trained to rise to. So.
Well, not
Well, I
only
would.
that, they're also getting their trial by fire.
Mhm.
Well, I would
Yep.
say real quick that I thought the battle or the action scenes, it felt like it was one long scene punctuated by moments where they stopped, but I never felt overwhelmed like I did with what was supposed to be the climatic battle in Aquaman, or the first one where I literally had to cover my eyes because I thought I was just going to die of sensory overload. With this one, I felt like there was a big fight scene, stop, big fight scene, stop, big fight scene, stop. But I never felt like it was going on too long or that it was just overblown. So it worked for me. I had little moments of respite before I moved on to, oh, we need to fight off the villains who are occupying Kandak again. So I did not feel overwhelmed, but it did feel like it was going on. And yeah, I mean, I accepted that some scenes were going to be like big fights, or like CGI things. I rolled with it. It was not, I was not overwhelmed, but I was not like, oh wow, that's too long or too big or too fake. So it worked fine. It worked fine for me.
One thing I liked about the fighting scenes, certain fighting scenes, they were done right. Other scenes like the climactic scene at the end,
Mhm.
there's objective flaws with it. The CGI could have been a lot better. The protagonist or the antagonist was a little bit doughy, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
With the CGI, the lighting. That's the problem when you have a fully animated and CGI rendered enemy or character, and you have this character has to do all sorts of things. You gotta tighten up the lighting in those scenes because the lighting sells the realism. And in certain scenes, when you got fully animated characters, if you can't get the lighting right, you may as well not even do it
Mhm.
because you should just try to do as best as you can, or live action. The fight between Hawkman and Black Adam, there was only one real reason when he's fighting in, or when those two are fighting in that house, and that's because The Rock wanted to basically smash up the Justice League. Because in that room,
Right.
the kid is a hero fan. We all know that. The kid's a freaking superhero fan, and he has all the Justice League members. Did you not see every single character of the Justice League getting their
Shit
image
pushed in.
destroyed? I mean, especially
Right.
Superman,
Yeah.
the fist through the Superman shield. It's like that is purely Dwayne the Rock Johnson asking the direction to go that way.
Yep.
But yeah,
I
for
mean,
the most
he's
part,
made
I
it pretty
really
clear
did
that
like it.
he's made it pretty clear that he's using this movie to insert Black Adam into kind of like the overall like
DCEU.
Justice League DCEU universe, which I think it would work if they portray him as a villain, because Black Adam is worthy enough to be the next villain for the Justice League if that's the direction they want to go to. But you don't get the feeling that that's the direction that they're going here with this movie, at least through that teaser towards the end. And before we get to the teaser, let's get to the kind of the ending of this film. So one of the guys who was with our Sarah's character early in the film, who everyone thinks is dead, turns out that he's been working for the bad guys the entire time. So he kind of disappears for about an hour into the movie. Then he comes back, and he's the guy who's looking for the crown because he's the one who wants to take over like the power and whatnot.
Yeah,
So
he's
he
the
gets the crown.
descendant.
He gets the crown. He dies again. Like officially, he's dead this time, and everyone thinks, "Oh, okay, well, we won't see him again." It's like, no, he just goes to, which I'm assuming is hell. He goes to the DC version of hell, and then all the demons are like, "You're gonna be our champion now." So now we get our big bad superhero fight, which was, it's kind of weird how they introduced this because it felt like the film was going in a pretty solid direction for where it was at that point. Then there's we can't just end the film without, a giant superhero melee. We need to show the full powers of what Black Adam can do. So we need to bring him back, even though we literally just tucked him away deep into the sea like 10 minutes earlier. So he comes back, and we get our big Demon versus Black Adam battle there towards the end. The effects, especially with the Demon character, that's when you can tell that, okay, you guys were clearly starting to lose money on that budget, because the effects didn't exactly look very well. You can clearly tell there was a lot of blue screen and a lot of CGI work done with that character. It wasn't very practical. I mean, I like the way they handled Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in his suit and kind of made it look kind of half animated but half more realistic. They clearly couldn't do that with this character here, where it was just purely computer animated. But the ending of the film, I can't say that it was bad. And my general feelings of the entire film up to this point is that this was an enjoyable superhero movie. We've seen a lot of bad ones this year. We saw Doctor Strange 2 earlier this year, which wasn't good. We saw Thor this year, that wasn't good. Now, is this as good as Batman? I personally say no. I think Batman was still better, even though Batman does have the con of being a little too long, especially with the ending that they could have cut out like 20-30 minutes out of entirely. But I mean, as far as everything about this movie, like I said, maybe it's what Rob said earlier. Maybe the bar is just so low that when we see a movie that we just don't hate, we think, oh, well, I remember that feeling of just going to a movie and thinking, yeah, that was pretty good. So I'll go ahead and get everyone's final thoughts on this movie, and you can talk about the ending, and you can also go into spoilers. I know we've got a few spoiler talks here, but just kind of what was your feeling on the way that they wrap things up in the movie overall? I'll start with Orange Hat.
One of the things I really did like was the whole final fight is about this demon sitting on a throne, and the throne after the demon's gone and whatnot. First off, if they can tighten up and improve the effects of that demon, if they can like really work on it at Warner Brothers, if they can just refine it to their best position, they have a lot of potential to bring in another demon who I absolutely love from the DC universe, which is Trigon. I would love to see him on the big screen. Not like that freaking Titans version, but
you talking about the Attack of Titans, the one with the
live action Titans show.
Oh, you're talking about the show. I thought you were talking about the movie. Okay, that's
that was just total cringe. But if they can actually just work, or just, I don't know, go into the background and just play until they can really tighten it up, they could bring Trigon in, because he is a big bad in the DC universe. He also has a lot of importance into it as well. When they have Black Adam sitting there on that throne, they're like, how's it feel? Wrong. I just look, and him destroying it, it's like, that works. I mean, he never had any aspirations to rule in this movie. His character in the comics is very much different. He wants to rule. But in this movie, he had no aspirations to rule. And that is actually just very... This is a guy that just doesn't want to go with the status quo, in my opinion. And it's like, you could rule that, and he's like, screw that. Destroys the damn thing.
Right.
And I really like that, because it really does show you just how much of a rebel this guy really is. Also,
I honestly thought Cassie would appreciate that. It's very libertarian of him.
Yeah, right. But yeah, as for, are we going to wait till after everybody else takes their turn to talk about that teaser? Or
say it again?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we all know who's in the teaser.
Yeah, it's a worst kept secret. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, Henry Cavill being in it and coming in as Superman. The one thing I absolutely loved of that scene, it wasn't just that Henry Cavill came in. They reintroduced the John Williams Superman theme from Christopher Reeves. And they gave him the S curl, which was very much missing from Zack Snyder's version of Superman. And it's like, I didn't just get goosebumps. It's like, God damn, that just felt very good that he is back. And now him also earlier on Twitter fully confirming he's back is something. It's like, well, obviously the genie was already out of the bottle, but it's good to hear the absolute confirmation from him himself.
I will say this real quick because there was people saying that they were upset that the scene leaked before the movie got premiered. It's like, well, maybe next time don't premiere the movie in like 5 different countries 2 weeks before the movie comes out, because I don't know if you guys know this, but overseas they don't care as much about piracy as they do here in the United States. So
no, they don't.
You can pirate the shit out of a movie overseas and no one cares. So maybe if you didn't want that scene to get out, maybe don't show that scene in a bunch of different countries before the movie comes out here in the United States. So
theaters should definitely have a turn in your cell phones before you go into the theater kind of rule. In my opinion.
Here in the United States, but like I said, in other overseas, they don't give a shit. It's like, who cares if the Americans are getting ripped off?
Right.
I think that the biggest issue with the movie is that sort of like Black Adam giving up his power, because it's the right thing to do. So, he stops hurting people, and then, but it's like that's literally the catalyst for the third act to happen and the guy to become a demon thing, and like all this stuff. And it's just like, okay, I get it. It's fine. Just ignore it because you enjoy the rest of the movie. Just ignore it because you enjoy the rest of the movie. So in that way, I don't know that it's better than the Batman, which I still have issues with. I think that it's a lot more open to criticism than a lot of people want to give credence to. But whatever, that's fine. I'll say it's a better movie than Black Adam because I think it probably is. I liked The Rock's Black Adam portrayal here because he's interesting. He's worth like watching. Hey, I want to see what he does next. He's somebody that's literally doesn't want to go along with like Orange Hat said, the status quo. And that made me interested in his character. That made me care about his character because I kind of see myself in the same way. I completely go the other way. I'm a contrarian. So, and I'll risk a lot of things to prove how committed I am to what I think and how I feel. So I like that. It's not a great movie, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because it met the bar for solid entertainment. There are some holes. There's some flaws to it. It's in the package of a comic book movie, which I tend to be harder on than most movies, probably because they are so successful and they do drum up so much success at the box office. But I don't know why critics have stopped being hard on comic book movies. If it's not Marvel, they seem to be like, what is this piece of shit? And I'm like, why weren't you this hard on the Thor movies? I mean, they were terrible. Yeah. So anyway, it's a 3 out of 5 for me. I enjoyed myself. It's not without its issues, but I think that it at least is a solid start to a potential franchise.
Well, I would call it a romp. I mean, it's by no means great, but it did its job. It entertained. You got everything that you were expecting. One of the issues I had was the Dr. Fate's end and farewell. I don't know if they were really aiming to make me cry or make me feel sad over a character that I had barely met, but I can't wrestle enough. Like, oh my God, we're losing Dr. Fate. Like, why? I barely met you. I have no idea who you are. So why am I going to feel sad at your end? But I appreciated the fact that it was entertaining. As for having Superman, one of my friends thought that Shazam was going to pop up because he had not seen the spoilers. I have seen those videos of those pesky fans who are trying to cheer and making fools out of themselves. Here's my issue: Henry Cavill cannot act. He flat out cannot act. He's a gorgeous looking man. but he cannot act. So I cannot whip up any enthusiasm to have him back as Superman. I don't think he is the best Superman we've ever had, not by a long shot. So I'm not impressed. I did think I wish Viola Davis would do a comedy because she always seems so stern and angry in at least two movies that we've seen this year. It was like, why are you always so angry? And
Hey, at least she's finally in a good movie. So there's
yeah, that is true. And I'm going to agree with Rob. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 as well. Although Rob is he's a cantankerous young man. You know,
he broke out the big words for you, Rob.
Rob's got an old soul.
Yeah.
I'm always reminded of Sheila Take a Bow when I think of Rob. How can someone so young sing words so sad?
Yeah.
That
Rob is basically
Rob.
basically our Archie Bunker, and that's why we all love him.
Yeah.
That would be true. I guess would that make me the George Jefferson? I don't know, but I'll say that it met the standards that I was seeking in this type of movie. I was entertained. I did enjoy myself probably more than what I thought. No, he's terrible. I refuse to watch any Mission Impossible films after the first one, but it was
Wait,
fine.
Wait, did you go on a rant about why you refused to watch Mission Impossible in the past?
Yes, I have.
Where did this one come from?
Well, no, it was a comment. It was a comment, and I hated the first one so much I swore never to watch another one, and I've kept that promise. But going back to Black Adam, it was fine. It met the standards. I mean, it hit all the familiar beats that I was expecting. I cannot fault the film for being entertaining. The first Mission Impossible was terrible, and Henry Cavill still can't act. But it was fine. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. It was a romp. So I would give it a 3 out of 5. And maybe this year, if my birthday's coming up, I'll have another High School Musical themed birthday party.
Yeah,
you should
Good
live
luck with
stream
that
it for
one.
us.
What?
Live stream it for us.
Hey, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we need something funny. Johnson was. You obviously had Johnson. You had a personal connection to this film because you knew someone who worked on the movie. So, did this film meet your expectations? What was kind of your overall thoughts in the movie?
Okay, so my best friend, yes, her son worked on this film, and yes, it was one of his last films because he died last year. So that was pretty much the only reason I dragged myself out to the theater to go see it. So I went with her, and we had a nice cry at the end. But I know a lot of people, because of that, I know a lot of people who work on it, and I can say, yes, you have really good people working on this film in terms of special effects, and you have really good people down there in Atlanta, so working on it. And I think when it is a little bit more personal, it's hard to be objective about it. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I liked that it killed people. Marvel movies don't really kill people, you know.
You're just upset it wasn't Ezra Miller.
I was gonna say it would have been better if he killed the Flash. Well, but maybe we can put that in the Flash movie. Okay, Zaslav, are you listening?
It would be great if, like, 5 minutes into the Flash movie, like, Black Adam just comes out of nowhere and punches Ezra Miller through the face, and then we just move on with the rest of the movie.
I'm just going to wait for a reaction for that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So, so I think, like I said, I liked the special effects. I have a real hard time picking out CGI unless it's very obvious. I just don't see it as much as you guys do. And I think that's probably because I'm a woman, and women as a whole tend to be more people-oriented than men, which is why, you know, when church is over, all the women stand around and talk, and all the husbands are like in the car and they're like, "Hey, game's starting, let's go." But I mean, like, that's typically a very female-centric sort of trait, is that we watch people more than we watch things, and we watch, like, men bond by watching movies more than women bond by watching movies. So we talk about the movies afterward over drinks, right? So yes, but yes, special effects were great. I took up points because of voiceover at the beginning. I think the voiceover section was too long. I was expecting a title card to come in between the time jump, and it didn't come. And it was like finally at the end of it came, and I was like, oh, that's where it is. You know, I was like, oh, okay, finally.
They fucking marveled you is what they did, those bastards.
Well, I think voiceover too tends to be something that more teenage age films tend to be geared toward.
Yeah.
I don't think I can name a whole lot of adult movies like
Sunset
like-
Boulevard.
I'm sorry. What? How many
Sunset
like
Boulevard.
film noir? How many great movies have
well-
voiceover to them? Oh my god!
The original Blade Runner.
it's
worked-
like
that
it's like the cantos in the old school books. It's like we live in an age where you don't have a lot of prologues anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like
Sorry.
the
I don't
first
know.
Lord of the Rings had that. Fellowship of the Ring had that.
I
I tend
love
to associate it more with like a young adult level of thinking, at least. Okay, so
I love what triggers like movie fans and movie buffs like us. It's like we don't get triggered by like the things of, oh, that guy said retard. I can't believe he would be so ableist. Like that doesn't bother us at all. But calling something a noir that's clearly not a noir film to just drive us like, he said what? It's just joking.
Yeah,
Mongo.
okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm not done. I'm sorry. I took up points for a lot of the contrivances. Rob talking about how like the mothering thing, that was a contrivance, I think. And she tends to be very stupid at times too. Like she's supposed to be the smart lady. I was irritated by that because she's like, oh, I'm just going to magically change my mind because the Justice Society showed up and told me I was wrong about my research, which I'd had a career like for many years, I assume, talking about it. I was like, that's not normal. And then like I felt like the whole point of like The Rock agreeing to like give up his power at the beginning of the end of the third act, I think it would have been better if Ahmed or the kid Ahmed, I don't know what his name is. I feel like okay, I think it would have worked better if he died or he'd been like more sincerely injured, because you find out like that like the Rock's son was like killed. And I was like, that would have triggered like a much more appropriate. That would have been much more of an appropriate reaction from him if the kid had died, or like obviously it would have brought him back to life in the jet, but it would have been like a good, like, let's kill this thing, trigger this man, get the result that makes more sense, other than, oh, this kid got hurt and you can't even see it because they whip him away in like 2 seconds. So
You wanted to. You wanted to have.
Well,
Corey
it's
come
called
and
a
kick him off
PG-13
the
movie.
building.
It's
you
called a
could have had
PG-13 movie.
you still could have had more reactions. Like all these people are around, they could have been like crying, and the mob could have been like sobbing, and you could have done it without showing it. So it's not like something that they couldn't have done. So
Johnson just wanted to see like a meatball room just like pop.
Well, again, if you want to see a child die, just start Halloween Ends. Just watch that open.
no, I don't like horror movies.
If you want to see
I
a
live
kid
in a
just
world
get
of
yeeted.
Yeah, I live in a world of rainbows and butterflies, and I'm very happy with my world.
By the way, that's why I've always liked DC over Marvel. Like if we just have to like whether movies are good or not is relevant, but like the whole like, oh yeah, they're willing to go darker. Like that's what I want.
Well, so
Yeah.
you can have a good mature theme that doesn't go dark, though.
Yeah.
That's like,
And I'm probably just overusing the word dark to be just more challenging material than just spouting platitudes and like so being at the forefront of social issues. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Stop
yeah.
it.
I will say this movie
yeah,
did
I'm
get
gonna
extra
say-
points for me for having a smart theme of like what it means to be a hero, what it means to be free, what it means to be a protector versus a ruler versus a champion, the idea of your past defining you, and how ultimately you can change or not change for the worse. It's interesting stuff anyway. So, but that's pretty much my comments there. I liked it. I won't fault anybody for go see it. Some movies I'm like, why would you waste your time on that? Well, I'm like, yeah, you can go waste your time on this.
Mongo, what was your final thoughts on watching this film? What would you rate it?
I I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. I hated the villain, mainly because the villain just had no personality, was incredibly generic, and they did the old cliche. It's the opposite of the quote unquote hero. I just felt like I hated the villain throughout the entire movie. Now the movie wasn't about the villain, so take too many points off for that. But I just couldn't stand the villain and how the villain looked. But to piggyback off of Johnson's point, I don't think the boy needed to die, because I think the point of the Black Adam surrendering his power is that he's being lectured to by Hawkman about being reckless and not being a hero, and he's kind of reveling in the fact that he's not a hero. And one time he tries to do something positive, he screws it up, and he ends up hurting the kid. And since the kid is sort of a parallel to his own son, he feels guilty about it. And it was kind of a way of escaping his own guilt, to just give up the power and go get shuttered away somewhere, so you won't have to actually deal with what you actually did. So I kind of saw it from that perspective. And listening to everybody else talk about how he's such a rebellious character, I say, well, if you actually look at, especially some of the flashbacks, teth-adam, which is his real name, he was actually okay with the brutality of the monarchy. It wasn't until his son stood up that he actually started to sort of turn around. So he actually finds a lot of motivation in the average person and the young people of Kahndaq. So that's where, the parallel for his own son comes from. So you're looking at it as he's a guy who's kind of fueled by vengeance and rage. And it's a righteous indignation that he has towards other people and other things. But he also has that sort of a sense of power made him what he is. So he has this situation where when he didn't have power, he was okay with everybody, pushing people around and the king being the king. But now that he has the power, he's not going to put up with that shit. So I kind of look at it from that perspective, that it kind of gave the character a little bit more of a dynamic. But overall, I think the ending of the movie was solid. The sacrifice of Dr. Fate. I'm a Pierce Brosnan mark, so I was not really happy that he got booted off. I kind of figured he was going to get killed, because I'm like, hey, if anybody's not coming back for number 2, would it have to be Pierce Brosnan, right? But I appreciate that they tried to make it something special, that Dr. Fate was going to sacrifice himself. It's just, I'm not sure that everybody had an opportunity to sort of emotionally invest in that character.
Yeah.
So
maybe if you remove the other 2 characters out of the film, that people could have invested in them more.
Yeah, it would have been more, spending more time with them. And usually when we have like these magician type of characters, they're always positioned as being sages. Like that's what Dr. Fate is. He's the sage. And he had served his purpose. So him being killed off was kind of expected. He's like, okay, well, he's going to tell the future one last time. And now there's no more futures to tell. He can go off and die. So it doesn't feel like there's unfinished business with Dr. Fate or anything like that either. So I think overall, I did like the movie. I just didn't like the villain, because I just felt like he was incredibly humorless and lacking in personality, which I think if it's a comic book movie, I want a comic book villain too, I just feel like we missed it on that one. But I liked the bulk of the story, so I generally enjoyed it.
And by the way, I gave the film a 3.5. Sorry, not 3.5. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Rob, did you ever give it a rating?
Yeah, I gave it a 3.
Okay, 3. So yeah, I think most of us gave us 3 out of 5. Which, like I said, it's a solid film. It's an enjoyable film, and look, we've been saying this for weeks. People are just desperate for watch something right now. They just haven't given them anything. So this is kind of the best you're gonna get for the next few weeks, until the next Marvel bullshit comes out that everyone's gonna go see and pretend like it's the greatest film that's ever been made.
You mean Black Panther 2? Black Panther 2? That's going to make $200 million on opening weekend? I don't think so.
And Angela Bassett's going to win Best Supporting Actress for it.
Okay.
Oh, we already know.
Hey, don't forget, if you're not satisfied with that, you got Ant-Man 3 coming up as well. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Shazam's still coming too, because we pushed that one back. So, good luck with him.
Hey, have you guys seen the trailer for that one?
Yeah.
I can't stand it. That stupid Eminem song playing, and like it's hey, I've seen every Fast and Furious movie. It's all about family, and no one shows up, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I was just wait a minute, and I mean, yeah, it's every Fast and Furious movie, and you're talking to a woman who is in the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah.
Dame Helen Mirren is like, all right, you're just like, yeah, you got your Oscar. Like, yeah, just do anything for the money here.
Yeah.
Well, we reached the end of our show, but I still got a couple of announcements to make because, well, there's going to be changes for at least the next couple of weeks. It has nothing to do with us. It has more to do with just the quality of movies that we have coming out. Now, next Monday, there will not be a show. We will not be streaming next Monday. That has more to do with the fact that on Monday, I'll be flying back in from Orlando because I am going to Orlando this weekend with the whole Geeks and Gamers crew, so I'll be out there. Hopefully, I'll see a bunch of people out there on this weekend, so if you are going to Orlando, hopefully I can meet you guys there later on. So yeah, by the time I get back on Monday, I'm probably not going to have the stream. There is some scheduled things outside of that as well. So we won't be back here next Monday. But I looked ahead at the schedule for 2 weeks. There really isn't anything good coming out in 2 weeks either, because pretty much all the big movies are going to be all streaming movies. And look, I don't want to have to hear Rick complain about he had to pay $5 for Peacock, and because he doesn't want to use the Raider sites like everybody else uses in his society. So yeah, give me the stink eye. So I figured that since we've had a couple of requests for it, instead of doing a movie review in 2 weeks, why don't we bring back the one thing that people actually enjoy? Let's bring back a movie night where we're actually going to watch a movie that's on the wheel. Now, the wheel's still here, people. I know you haven't seen it here in a couple of months, but the wheel is still here. And here's the movies that are on the wheel. We have Evasion USA. We have Twister. We have Cobra. We have Bad Boys, Stand By Me, Weird Science, The Craft, Tremors, Blue Streak, and thanks to Rick's recommendation, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So, do you guys want to spin the wheel and see what movie we're going to be watching here in 2 weeks? Yep. Is that going to work for you guys?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right, then here we go. 1, 2, and let's see.
Fortune.
Weird Science.
Weird Science.
Yep.
Yes.
And we're getting Weird Science. So, 2 weeks, we're going to be watching the film Weird Science. That will be a Twitch and Twitter exclusive. We won't be doing that one on YouTube because we all know YouTube sucks at the end of the day. But that'll be a good little placeholder for us. And then, of course, in 3 weeks, we can get back to the review format because we're going to be reviewing the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie. Or as I like to call it, the Chat with Both memorial service. So that'll be something we can all look forward to in a few weeks. Let me go ahead and give you guys a chance to promote your guys' projects, and I can tell you what we got coming up for the rest of the week. So let's start off, Mr. Orange Hat. I know you gave us a teaser of what you're going to be working on this coming week. So anything else you want to promote outside of that?
Other than the mystery review, I will be doing a stream this Saturday night discussing the best werewolf movie, in my opinion. And it's also a movie that most people have never heard of, called Silver Bullet. Still open for anybody who wants to join that in a panel. So yeah, because it's closer to Halloween that I won't be able to stream as much, but definitely want to discuss that because it's my favorite. It's my favorite werewolf movie, and definitely want to give a nice discussion. I did a mystery review on it, but I also want to discuss it with other people too. So yeah. Other than that, just the mystery review tomorrow morning. It's a movie that frightened generations. So that's it. About it for me.
It sounds like this person may know what that film is, Mr. Rick Aragon. What do you got coming up that people should be looking forward to? I did 7 movies this weekend. You got to do at least one. What's your excuse?
I don't have an excuse. I've been. Let's see. I do have this. I do have the Paul Lynde Halloween special, which I hope to watch for Halloween. And
gentlemen, what brings me to my next point: don't smoke crack.
Hey,
I had to be there, crapped
when
out.
if I'm ever intoxicated, I will break out my Paul Lynde impersonation. So I'm sorry you all are going to miss that.
Save
Uh,
it for the High School Musical live stream.
and yeah, that's until December. I also will be trying to wrap up my unofficial Grand Duchess Anastasia retrospective because I did the animated movie and I did the live action movie. So I'm going to do this mini series and hopefully I'll get through some of those. Try to go back to my retrospectives on the Criterion Fellinis and Bergmans, and just trying to watch more movies. And I'll just throw out real quick that Weird Science is an Academy Award nominated film, so I'm very I'm eager to revisit that. So it'll be fun, and that's pretty much it. Just trying to catch up on some reviews that I have from the past. That's pretty much my 2 weeks there. So that's it. Thanks.
All right, let's give a quick little shout out to our guy Mongo Slave for joining us here tonight. What do you got working up on your channel?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to actually find some way of watching Raw again because I could stop watching Raw to do this, so that was good.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Know, Jacob, no.
When I was prepping for the show, the first match on Raw was like Finn Balor and Carl Anderson. I immediately turned it on the football games. Like, I'm not watching any more of this shit. And I was like 10 minutes into the show. I was like, I'm fucking done.
So I'll have to find some way because I do wrestling reviews most. Oh, what happened? What?
What, did we lose you? Yeah, we lost him. Well, here's Rick again, everybody. Now let's go over to Johnson.
Okay, well, hey, everybody. I still have a week left on my Kickstarter. So if you guys want to give me money, I'd appreciate it. That's all. I'm a writer, and I write a bunch of stuff. And it does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to entertain you and infuriate you and make you laugh, make you cry. All that good stuff. I guess somebody's dancing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell happened there. That was on my end.
Oh, that's okay. And then also please subscribe to my YouTube channel because I need some extra money, from ads.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then,
I got a lot of my audiobooks, and I'm gonna have some stuff up soon, other stuff. So.
No good.
Yep.
Definitely have to get the link to the Kickstarter on that one real quick. Mongo, you want to do a take two on that one?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I do pop culture live streams every Sunday. So that's where I kind of do movie reviews. Also do anime, comic books, manga, that kind of thing. I do them every Sunday. But my channel is pretty much dedicated to my love of pro wrestling and storytelling and writing and stuff like that. So that's usually what I do on the channel. But if I actually watch a movie, which I paid to see Black Adam, so I was definitely going to sit and watch it. I'll hop back on here. But thanks you guys for inviting me.
All right. Then last but certainly not least, the only man who can claim to watch more movies in a week or in a year than me is Mr. Rob Motto. What you got coming up, buddy?
Well, you actually have me beat when it comes to 2022 movies watched because, I've only seen maybe 30, 40 new movies. Most of the movies I watch are older, are not in the current year. So, no, it's okay. I don't know. I'm hoping 2022 shapes up here. I'm trying to do more. I'm trying to write. I don't ever seem to find time for it. Just watch 12 movies in a weekend. So I should probably dedicate some of that time to writing more, movie reviews, think pieces, whatever, starting YouTube channel. But I just haven't done it yet. So you can follow me on my Twitter. I'm watching all horror movies this month. I'm actually running out of titles. So if you guys have any recommendations, throw them at me. I've seen a lot, but I'm pretty behind on horror. So
Mean Girls.
Please throw those at me. Mean Girls is not a movie that weirdly overrated by my generation. It's not even as good as what is John Hughes movie from the 80s.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched Mean Girls recently. That shit does not hold up at all. Like,
I've
not at all.
I've never seen Mean Girls, but Rob, you got the Paul Lynde Halloween special. That's in the horror genre. You've got Kiss, so you can't go wrong with that.
I'd rather watch like The Twilight Zone, like something good.
It's pretty close. Paul Lynde is pretty close.
You could do the episode. There's a movie where Scooby Doo meets Kiss. You could do that one.
Or meets Mama Cass.
Or I'm not sure if you've seen these two movies, but here's a couple of movies I can recommend you, especially if you're looking for like scary movies. Mm-hmm. One will be Blood Games, which is a 1990 film. I'll shoot you a link for that one. Have you seen Savage Streets with Linda Blair? Did you ever go back to watch that one?
No.
I would probably go back and watch that too. Those are very, let's just say very. They feel very 80s. That's the best way I can support it. So okay. I know you'll love that one. So. And then rolling back over here. So, yeah, like I said, next Monday night we won't be having the show, but in 2 weeks we'll be watching the film Weird Science before in 3 weeks coming back to watch and review Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So everyone's looking forward to that one. And by everyone, I mean nobody. Tomorrow, episode 21 of the Barroom Podcast. And here's the topics that we have for tomorrow night. Did Shavine Littlefeather, lie about her Native American ancestry? There's the whole story about her and Marlon Brando, just one big fat lie, where her sisters claim that it is. We'll talk about that story tomorrow. The Daily Beast wrote an article which is literally making the case for even shittier movies and televisions that we are watching right now. They want it to get even worse. Why? Because they're advocating for literal fan fiction. We'll talk about Ant-Man 3 because Ant-Man 3 is here and it's introducing the new Avengers Big Bad. So if you guys love that one, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Billy Eichner is still having a meltdown about the fact that his fucking rom-com movie bombed. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the fact that the George Clooney rom-com with Julia Roberts is killing his movie at the box office. It's not even close. It's borderline criminal what that movie is doing. And then our last topic for tomorrow night is Hollywood literally about to reward itself for making a movie about exposing Harvey Weinstein. Yes, they're going to give themselves big award recognitions for a movie about an event that they started and created for many, many years. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. And then Wednesday, myself, Nerdigans, TW, and anyone else who wants to join us for Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we're going to be talking about Nickelodeon's Doug. We'll have a good discussion about that show. We'll have to show a few clips as well. So I want to have a good time talking about that one. Then, of course, Wednesday night, the Black Pill stream, we'll probably be talking about Superman. We'll probably be talking about Ezra Miller. We'll probably be talking about Ant-Man, myself, Spencer, John, Josh, all the good stuff. And then, like I said, this weekend I'm coming to Orlando for a few days. So hopefully I get to see some of you guys at the Geeks and Gamers meetup. So outside of that, that's everything we got coming up here on the channel. Like I said, on my site, societyreviews.com, I wrote a boatload of reviews. They're all up in video. As a matter of fact, by the time we get done with this show here, I got to edit my Old Man review and post that one up as well. So there's a lot of good films coming out. And then there's one last movie recommendation for a film that has such an over-the-top, ridiculous premise. I need to go see this movie as quickly as possible. It's a film called 6/45. Now, I know it's a very weird term. It's a South Korean movie. But the concept of the film is that there's I guess, a borderline between the South Korean guards and the North Korean guards at the border of the two countries. And one of the South Korean guards has just won the lottery, won like $5.7 million, right? But the ticket blows out of his hand and crosses over to the North Korean side of the border. So now there's literally a war going on at the border about who's going to claim this lottery ticket for $5.7 million. The trailer looks absolutely ridiculous, but it's one of those ridiculous premises where I actually want to see this. I think it might be... I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. This might be one of the top movies of the year for me if they can manage to pull this off. But I haven't seen it yet, so I won't go completely all in on it. But yeah, hopefully it's a pretty good film. So we're at the end of the year. There are going to be some good films. I mean, unless you guys want to go watch Till, I mean, you guys can appreciate the fact that I'm not forcing you to go watch that movie. So
I probably will. I'm a sucker for biopics.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see Armageddon Time because I convinced myself James Gray didn't make a giant piece of shit.
And there's the upcoming Steven Spielberg semi-biopic, The Fablemans.
Fablemans, yeah.
Well, best of luck to you. Let's just put it that way. I might end up watching the Dawn of the Dead 3D this weekend, but that's pretty much as far as I'm willing to go. I think if I watch Till this weekend, I'm going to be in a bad mood, and that's not what I want to do. So,
Yeah.
outside of that, that's pretty much everything else we have going on. Like I said, I'll see you guys tomorrow night on the Barroom Podcast with all of our stuff. Thank you for all the guests joining us: Orange Hat, Rick, Mongo, Rob, CS. And hopefully I'll see all of you guys in the chat who joined us. I know Jonathan was here with us. Alex vs. Evil was with us. Duke Nukem was here in the chat with us. Cassie joined us for a little bit. TW, I saw you were here earlier too. Or anyone else who I may have missed. Our good friend Amari Parker was also here a little bit with us as well. So for everyone else, we'll see you guys tomorrow night on the show for the Bar Room. Good night. Go home. The Monday night game is pretty much over, so I mean, there's really nothing else to watch unless you want to watch shitty pro wrestling for the next 3 minutes of your life, which you probably don't want to do. So until then, let's go ahead and hit the outro. See you tomorrow. Goodbye. Go away. Leave.